Henry, where did you grow up?
In Virginia, Greenville County.
And what was that like? I mean, where it was a town, or did you grow up?
No, it was country farm.
You grew up on your parents were farmers?
Yes.
And what did you grow?
In Virginia, grew quite almost everything, from corn, cotton, peanuts, soybeans, and wheat, whatever you could grow, we grew it in the state of Virginia. Plus tobacco, but we didn't, on my farm, we didn't, but I worked with a guy that did have tobacco.
And so you grew up in Virginia under Jim Crow, under segregation.
Right.
What was that like?
Well, hey, it's one of the things that was the law in that state, so what you had no other alternative but to abide by.
Do you have any memories of that?
Oh, well, I mean, no crucial. I mean, like, even though it was segregated, but you got a certain amount of respect from parents. It just there were places that you couldn't eat or drink for a period of time before that was changed. Like we even were denied the privilege of voting.
And do you remember Pearl Harbor? Do you remember December 7th?
Very much so.
Tell me what you remember.
Well, I had moved from the farm to Richmond, Virginia, then the city. Matter of fact, it's the capital. Richmond is the capital of Virginia. So I was working for a bus company, and I was going from one company to another when I heard the news. And I took off and running back to my station where I was working.
And what happened to you? Did you get drafted or did you volunteer?
No, I was drafted. I would never have volunteered.
You would never have volunteered?
No, I never would have volunteered.
Why not? Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, it's one of the things that soldiers was something we seldom saw back in my childhood days. I mean, so it was something that I wasn't well acquainted with.
You were drafted, and what happened? Where did you go? What did you do?
Well, when I got the message, then I was supposed to go to a drafting station to be examined and everything. So when that day had come, which was 2 days before Christmas, so I told my mother if I passed, I was going right then and there. I would not take the 7 days. So after getting to the draft station, there were several of us took immediately. And after we had passed the examination, when we were shipped into Fort Meade, Maryland, and we got in there around 3 o'clock in the morning. And the sergeant came into the barrack and said, everybody would be up at 7 o'clock. So at 7 o'clock came, the sergeant was still running around, and the guys that were still in bed, they were turning them over in the cots. I said, wow, look where I have come to already. So after going through the course there and being examined and assigned, at that time, this had just created this new outfit, the 320th Anti-Aircraft, which I was assigned to, which was the balloon outfit. Some new outfit that had just taken the granite, and on the 3rd of January, we were shipped right out into Tennessee, where the basic training was. And the reason for us going there was because there's where the four winds blow. At first, we started off with a bigger balloon than what we what I have pictures of now, but due to storms, electrical storms, we had a guy who was killed, but not in my outfit, in another company, like it was A, B, and C company. So then they reduced the size and also the height. We was only flying anymore 2,000 200 feet.
And can you explain to the audience who probably won't know what a barrage balloon is and what it was meant to do?
Well, like I said, it was an anti-air force thing, and it was against air forces. It was the only one of its kind, and we were picked and we were considered a special outfit, which meant a lot to us in a sense, because we were a little bit different from the rest of the people, like infantry or whatever else. But even though we did have to go through a rifle range training and whatever, how to shoot and handle a gun. And on the balloon, they were inflated with helium gas. It's pure oxygen, 100% oxygen. And we had like 300 air tanks. It's pretty big, heavy stuff. And we had to change it every so often to keep fresh air in those, which you could breathe it and it was not harmful to you. Plus, we had to have them bedded down because in action, we only flew them at night, from dusk to dawn, not in the daytime. And the purpose of that was because of the cable that they were flown for was actually a piano cable, piano wire, which was attached to the balloon plus a half pound of TNT container. In that case, if the plane flew in and hit that cable, it would glide it down, that parachute would come out and would glide it down till it hit the metal or whatever, and it would detonate the TNT. So therefore, there was nothing scrapped on Normandy Beach. We were there for 68 days, and there was nothing scrapped on Normandy Beach because of the 320th aircraft.
Now, do you remember going overseas?
Of course.
What was that like?
Well, we pronounced combat ready within 10 months. And then we went from there to New York. And they wanted to keep us there, but the colonels, they wanted their rating. If they go overseas, they got a higher rating. So he preferred going overseas with us like we did do.
And what was the trip over like? Did you get seasick or?
No, I didn't, but there were many that did. And it was a 13-day travel trip, which was on a British troop trip, which they had converted from a regular passenger ship into an army ship. And it had 22,000 troops on when we crossed. And we went across the Atlantic alone. We ran into a storm and we would toss the ship back and forth, and things that you had hanging on the wall would fall off. If you go on the deck, you'd almost laying out if it tilt, from the waves. But I managed not to get sick.
Now, were the black troops separated from the white troops?
Well, we all had our own era. Like I said, quite a number of areas. Like we was out in the bottom almost. But 22,000 guys on a boat is a lot of people.
What was the food like?
Well, food wasn't too bad. And then it was a British type food, but yet still, it was edible.
And so where did you land when you went overseas?
Well, we was in several different camps, and that was a problem there. I couldn't understand how they could be expecting troops and not have prepared better conditions than they did have for them. Like our mess sergeant had a hard time getting food for us once we were there. And that seemed to me a little bit odd. Why, when they knew that we were supposed to come in and knew where we were going to be landing, but yet until he said he had a problem getting food for us. And food over there was a little bit scarce to a certain extent. We were rationed. And they would weigh our garbage. And we had too much garbage just to cut the food supply. Yeah. Plus we had barracks that didn't have heat. At one place we didn't have hot water. In other places, we got a coal per barrack. Once that burned out, that was it for the day until the next day, 5 o'clock.
Did you do training in England?
Well, yeah, we in the time we waited, we were there for almost a year before the invasion. And I was in several different camps. I think we have some pictures of the places, names of the places that we were in. And then the last 90 days was in a staging era where all the troops, and each one had a time to go to chow, as you would call it. And if you didn't make your time, that's too bad. And that's where then the white and the black were mixed. I mean, for the food concern, because that was all you did. Staying in line from one period to the next for your food. We had food 3 times a day. But the one thing was good for us, being a special unit, we had a Class B ration, which was like being at home almost. Yeah.
And do you remember kind of loading up to go across the channel for the Normandy invasion?
Yeah.
What was that like? What happened?
Well, just like anything else, I mean, you had a schedule to meet, and that was it. And when your turn came, that's when you went. And everybody was alerted. The one strange thing I couldn't understand was we was in that area for 90 days, but we wasn't paid until after we hit the beach. I couldn't understand that. So when we hit the beach, we were due at 6:30, but it was around 2 o'clock before we were able to land. And the beach was so heavily mined, it was the most heavily mined beach they had ever run into during the World War II fighting. Water, they dumped us off the water up to our necks. And we had one guy that was short, so short that somebody had to carry him to the shore. And once we got there, we lost like about 15,000 men. And plus they're walking across dead Germans and Americans on the beach. It's so heavily mined. But we didn't get a chance to set up until around about 2 o'clock on the day after they got off the beach and was further up in the hills. But while we were walking from the ship to the beach, bullets were falling all around us. You could hear them frying in the water. That's how close we were to the bullets were getting through. I was fortunate not to be hit by one.
What were you feeling then? I mean, I would just be terrified. I can't imagine.
Well, yeah, but you're taught not to be terrified. That's it, you see, that's it. One of the things you had to do is you did what you were supposed to do. And like I said, we were there on the beach for 68 days. Then we moved up into Cherbourg, which was a little town. After they had chased the Germans back out of that town. So we were there for a short while. We was back home for Christmas during that time, and we went to South Pacific, which we would come back to the state. 30 days they let leave, could visit our parents. I got my 30 days was up like one day before Christmas, so they telegraphed that to stay that one day home with our parents, people who were, relatives. And then we were assembled in Georgia, and we were there from January until May. And we had boarded the ship in Seattle, Washington for the South Pacific to meet a convoy in Hawaii. But the boat that we was on broke down at sea. Was one of the boats that was hit during Pearl Harbor that they had repaired, and it broke down at sea. And they drug us back for 2 days with dry dock. By the time we got to Hawaii, the real convoy had gone. So we was waiting for another date. As a matter of fact, the day the war ended in Germany was the day we landed in Hawaii, May the 8th. So while we were waiting in there, D-Day that day came, which we didn't regret.
How did that feel?
Oh, that was a great feeling because we were waiting for another date while we were there in Hawaii. In the meantime, while we were waiting, we used to do details because we wasn't doing drilling anymore. So that would keep us active, you know, like when the shipment came in, from the airport or either from the docks, we were selected the crew to go and unload ships or whatever. We loaded the ship, but going down under, we were 3 days hauling ice, 300 blocks of ice for this ship that was going down under for at least 6 months. So that's how we kept busy, you know, not sitting worrying about what's going to happen next. So at that time, they had a punch system for discharge, and once the B-Day had come, and then everybody was sitting praying, waiting for their numbers to come up. I was something like 60 or so before my number came up. But anyhow, I waited 12 days for a boat rather than to fly across the Pacific on one of those prop jets. So I came back on a ship back into Los Angeles. Then we loaded on to these jets, prop plane. Matter of fact, there wasn't no jets in those days, and it took us 18 hours from California to New Jersey. So once we were there, then we went from there back to some went to Fort Meade and some went to other places, discharging area. And then I came home.
Where were you discharged?
I was discharged from Maryland, where I was inducted. But a lot of other guys went to Georgia, someplace down there, was discharged.
Now, what did it feel like when you came home that first time on the 30-day delay en route or furlough, and you got to see your parents again? What was that like?
Well, it was great because at least during the time I came home, I had lost an aunt. And my mother and them was in Norfolk attending her funeral. So when I came there, the lady let me in, and I sent them a telegram that I was home. So they came home right away. But they thought maybe I was hurt because they hadn't had no notice of me coming home. Because it was a quick thing done. I mean, once they made a demand that you go home, you coming back to the state, that was it. You don't just make no mention or no letters, what I'm saying. You're cautious of what you had to write home.
Now, did the 320th Battalion lose men on D-Day?
They did lose some. I think we lost, I can recall losing 3 men out of ours. And one of them just went pursuit when they hit the beach, you know. And it's an awful thing for some people, and some could take it and some couldn't.
What happened to him? He just couldn't handle it?
Well, I just lost control, I guess, what happened.
I mean, you're seeing all this destruction all around you, and people have already been killed and other people are getting killed. How did you keep calm and just focused on your job?
Well, hey, so the first thing we did was to dig ourselves a trench, a hole, right on the edge of the beach. And that was the first time I'd ever been around a big body of water. I didn't really understand about the tide coming in and coming out. When we were so close, I got to the point where I didn't know whether I should stand up or lay down and get drowned. But it didn't come. It came so close, but yet still not close enough to interfere with us.
And you were able to get those balloons up on the beach?
Yeah. See, this is it. The Army division, the working force of the Army, they had pointed out site where we were supposed to be. Had all our equipment right there that we were supposed to use, like we used something like about 30 tanks. And these were pretty heavy tanks, like these gas tanks you see run, these trucks hauling around here now. It was similar to the same sort. And we had 300 of them. And every time we moved, we had to handle them.
That's right. You had to get those big tanks on the beach. Then after you were discharged, what did you do?
Well, I went back to my hometown where I worked. And at that time, they had a thing that if you had a job, you was entitled to your job if it still exists. And then if you're a student or whatever, it was a different thing. Well, I couldn't afford to go to high school. That's not what I was going to be in a college kid. So I had a job. All right. And when I got out of high school, out of grade school, I went to work.
How old were you when you went to work?
Oh, 16 to 17 years old.
And what did you do for work first?
Well, first I worked on where the farmers. Then from there, like in 38, 39, I went to Richmond. And I got a job at a bus terminal there, in a restaurant first. I got a restaurant job, and it was a terminal. So it come a vacancy over there in the terminal, and I went over there after I got about it, and she said, yeah, sure, come right on. He just hired me right then and there. And then when I was drafted, then I told them that I would be going to the service, and if I passed, I would be going that same day. I wouldn't be waiting around with the 7-day bit. So therefore, my job was there when I came back, and they greeted me. And for 6 months, during that time, they had changed managers at that station. So they happened to be going through the record, and they recognized that I was a veteran and had worked there prior to that. They called me in the office and apologized to me for their oversight. And they said, now, if you're not satisfied with the position, with the hours that you were working, you're entitled to any hour that you would like. It was already going from 6 to 2 with no delay for lunch or whatever. I just worked straight through from 6 to 2. So I was happy with what I had.
And how do you think your experiences as a soldier in World War II shaped you or changed you, or, you know, did it leave an impact on you, that experience?
Not really, no. Because I was never wounded, and I was always pretty healthy. So I made it pretty good. Plus I was promoted to PFC. Yeah, when it's had a sergeant from the headquarters, which was the outfit that did all our preparation, back in the States when we were there, and he wanted me on his crew, but my platoon sergeant and my platoon officers didn't want me to go, but I felt like they deprived me of a rank, because had I gotten to headquarters, I probably would have become a sergeant or something very easily, because I was already a PFC. But he was very impressed in trying to get me, but they wouldn't grant me to leave.
They wouldn't let you go.
No.